everyone. Well, maybe we need to break some of that, open that pocket, those boxes of chocolate. So let's try it again. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. All right. So a few things I think we need to do. I'm going to have to create a contract or a memorandum. Definitely don't speak after the students, and then not after they've been given 20 pounds of chocolate to walk. Everyone was looking up there wondering, what's going to happen with that chocolate? So first, it's always a privilege and an honor to first connect with community members, to connect with stakeholders, to connect with colleagues who do incredible work in the field of education and just community development. And just to come together, especially as of late, to come together to celebrate, for a change. I mean, you may have read, things are a little rough in Harrisburg right now. And the truth of the matter is to be able to take the time and stand here in celebration, recognition, and to engage in conversation around something that's so important. And that's experience, that's education, and that's opportunities for young people. And as the Secretary of Education, I'm really lucky that I get to be selfish. I get to be very singular focused. I get to go to work every day and really engage in conversation and practice. In a movement that is so important, and quite frankly, something that I care deeply and just intensively about. And that's really the investment of young people. And one of the things that we learned today, as we're listening to the conversation, as we're listening to students share their experiences, as we're looking at our programs and noticing, just concentration in biology and concentration in, the career and technical education opportunities, and just really focusing on STEM. We know, and you all know, because you're here tonight, that education is an investment. And I'll stop for, actually, I'll repeat that. Education is an investment. Because if you pick up a newspaper, if you watch the news, if you read a blog, or you read a tweet, or you open your Facebook page and you hear folks, especially as of late, having conversations about investment, about education, it's always about the cost. Cost. And one of the things that we don't take a step back and realize, there's a significant difference between a cost and an investment. An investment pays dividends in the long run. A cost doesn't always do that. And one of the things that we realize in working in the state, whether you're meeting with the Department of Economic Development, whether you're meeting with corrections, the Department of Human Services, when we're meeting with labor and industry, when we're meeting with agriculture, one of the things that they realize is we understand we don't know. One of the things that we know we don't know what this world is going to look like in 5 to 10 years. We don't know what our children that are graduating from high school now, are starting high school, or going into middle school, are going to be facing when they become us, when they become professionals in their field. I'm going to stop there and share a personal story that's really been an aha moment for me. So a few years ago, and I have an 11-year-old and who knows it all, and and a 4-year-old who bosses me around. But I took my son, he was 11 years old, and started the school year to buy a pair of sneakers. And, we're kind of making a day of it, we're hanging out, and he's walking in front of me because he knows it all. He's too cool to walk with me. So he's walking about 5-10 steps in front of me, and he stops. And he's looking at something against the wall. He's very perplexed, and I'm catching up finally. And I look at him, and I look up to see what he's looking at. He says, "Hey, Dad, what is that?" So I look up, and lo and behold, it's a payphone. I said, "Well, what do you mean, what is that?" "It's a payphone." I said, "Well, what do you need a payphone? Why do they need a phone just floating here in the middle of the outlets? What's going on here?" I said, "Well, when back in Dad's day, when someone had to make a phone call, you walked, especially growing up in Philadelphia, that was really the payphone, really like your personal phone. So you walk over to the payphone, we used to put in a nickel, and you put in a quarter. And you call someone on the other line, and you can speak to someone on the phone." He said, I said, "Well, why wouldn't you just take out your cell phone?" He said, "Well, but not everyone has a cell phone, and back then cell phones didn't even exist." So we started really having this conversation. I realized at that time, he was about 9 years old. He pretty much, for as long as he could remember, cell phones existed. So he didn't see he couldn't even imagine the use of a payphone. He couldn't imagine having to carry, a pocket full of change, to make a phone call. He couldn't imagine not having that access to that technology, at your fingertips. And we started having conversations from that point to, I showed them pictures of what cell phones used to look like. They used to, one arm was always bigger than the other because you had to carry your cell phone around with you, and then they got, really small. And then I had to remind them, because we're getting older, they're starting to get big again, because we can't see the dot, we can't see the numbers or the messages on the screen. Well, when you understand what it is that, children like my son and the students that we're celebrating today, the world that exists, the world that they've created and they're going to be responsible for leading, does not yet exist. And if we push our technology onto them, it's just not going to fit. If we push all of our values, onto them, it's not going to fit. If we don't make an investment now and consider everything that we're putting in towards education, a cost, we're not going to see the dividends that return from our investment. So the greatest thing we can do, which is what programs like this provide and create the opportunity to do, is expose them, give them permission to play, or the opportunity to play in the sandbox, so to speak. Watch them grow in a productive manner. Because when we ask employers, it's very interesting. When we ask employers, so what do you need? That's always the age-old conversation between educators and employers. Many of the skill sets that are needed nowadays aren't the old technical skill sets of the past. It's the ability to think. It's the ability to be strategic. It's the ability to get along with others. It's the ability to build and to grow and take advantage of situational opportunities. And it's the ability, or probably the desire, that skill to care about what you're doing. And that's what's going to really drive not only industry, but society forward. So remember, as we're having the conversations, regardless of what end of the spectrum you're on, I ask that as you're looking at what we're doing here today and what we're going to be doing for the next many, many years, hopefully, remember this: education is an investment. The students we're celebrating here today are an investment. What we put into a system, we get out of the system. And ultimately, if we don't invest now, there will be no one to take care of us when we get older. So thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the evening, and thanks for taking the time to invest in our kids. Thank you.